get started. Welcome to our 24.4 Product Spotlight webinar. I wanted to thank everybody for joining us today. Have you guys all noticed the pattern of the releases? So 24 is the year and 4 is the month. 24.4 is April of 2024. All right, if you didn't know, now you know. So let me introduce our hosts and moderators for today. We have a wonderful group of people hosting with a slightly modified format today. So first we have Ricardo Bocci, a VP of Product Management, Yuki Lam, Director of Product Data Analytics, Jeet Badwal, Associate Director of Product, Clinical and Mobile. And in the Q&A chat, we have Todd Strong, Jordan Fries, and myself, Amber Ledesma, from our customer success team, here to answer any questions you have during the session. Speaking of which, a few housekeeping rules. Throughout the webinar, we encourage active engagement from our attendees. So our agenda for today starts with CR Mobile and Jeet. He will review where we're at with the app and highlights of what's new for our 24.4 mobile release. Then Yuki will share enhancements we've been working on to improve our advanced business intelligence tool. And then we'll close with a preview of what we're working on for future releases. So you notice we are not spending time today on practice management updates for this release. We have done some minor enhancements and bug fixes for 24.4, but we have been spending most of our efforts this month on behind the scenes work to support what's coming in those upcoming releases. So our April release is scheduled to go into beta this Friday, April 12th, and will be seen by everyone live on Thursday, April 25th. The mobile release comes out the following week. It'll be the week of April 29th.
Before we move forward, I just wanted to make sure that, we talk just a little bit about this new release that we had around 4.10. We really wanted to be very much focused on 4 different aspects of the workflow. We want to make sure that our workflows are designed intuitively, and we're collecting all the information that we need so that we generate clean claims at the end of all this. We want to be compliance ready, so we want to make sure all your restrictions that you have around what's required, what's not required for appointments are taken care of, and they're designed in a way that it guides the RBTs throughout the process. We wanted to make sure it's easy to use, so you'll see a lot of the difference in the design work that we've done, a lot of simplicity that we've incorporated. We understand the RBT turnover rate, right? We want to make sure that this is something that you can quickly implement. You can and just be more sustainable from that perspective. And we also wanted to make sure that we are choosing a platform that we're building this on, which can also be used for technology innovations. So you'll hear a little bit more about, some of the stuff that we're doing around generative AI, which you'll see a little bit today. And these platforms allow us to make sure that we can innovate on and move forward with. So with that said, one thing I wanted to also just share is, before, like when we had our first release of mobile, the workflows that were designed for the RBT specifically, 45% of the work was being done on mobile, and the RBT still needed to go back to the web to complete their entire workflow from end-to-end perspective. And now, looking back at after the 4.10 release, almost everything that you need to do in terms of data collection, in terms of your appointment completion, can now be done on mobile. So we do feel this does give you the end-to-end workflow for mobile technicians, and collect data and appointment completion, etc. So with that, what I will do is I'll log into my device and we'll do a live demo. And just for this purposes, if you go to the next slide, Amber. From a setup perspective, there's basically a few things you'll need to do. One is just make sure that you can, create a session node template, which is, very specific in terms of how mobile uses them. And we have presets that you can basically build on that and add your own customs and sections as well, which we'll see. And then you basically assign that on a service code level, just like you would do with the notes and form one. You'll go under your node template, and you can assign the template that you want to use for that specific service code. So assuming all that is set up, and assuming you already have an appointment scheduled, what I would love to do is show you an end-to-end workflow on mobile in terms of how the technician will complete that appointment. So I would probably need to share now, Amber. And okay, so I am using a tablet. The application works on both Android and iOS platforms, and it works on phones and tablets. So we'll go ahead and log into our mobile app. Since I'm already logged in, what I see here is my appointments for the day. And I also see the progress that I've made throughout the day. So there's some completed appointments, and then I have some that are in progress, etc. At the top, you'll basically see your calendar view, and it gives you the weekly view. And if I tap on the calendar on the right-hand side, I can expand and take a look to the next week's and such. And I can even view if there is something scheduled for next week, for example. You'll notice a little red dot on the 9th. That just basically tells me that I have something on that day that hasn't been completed. I can always click the Today button, which is right up here, to get back to my Today screen. And that will take me back to where I need to be. So what I will do now is we'll go ahead and I'm going to go to this appointment right here, and we're going to go ahead and start this appointment. We'll tap into that. And when I do, I'm basically brought up to the appointment detail screen. This is a screen where I'll see all the information that I need for this appointment. This includes my client information at the very top. I can get some information around the client. It'll tell me the service code that is assigned to this appointment, my data sheets that are assigned, the session node, and also signatures if there are any requirements there. One thing you'll notice is the session data sheets are deactivated at this moment. And that the reason is because I haven't started the appointment. So what I will do now is I'll go ahead and start the appointment, and I basically just swipe across here. And when I do, I am basically asked to confirm the place of service. This comes directly from the appointment record. So if you have it on your schedule, they'll populate here. And what this will basically do is you confirm through it, and this is then used all the way throughout the process so that, when you do create your timesheet, it reflects that. Now that I have started my appointment, you'll notice at the very top here, I have this little ticker that says 59 minutes to go. So what we did here to simplify our workflows, when you start the appointment, we're basically just, before the full 10 release, you had to start the appointment, then you had to and then you had to go find your data sheet, then you had to start your data sheet, end your data sheet, complete the session, your session data sheet, come back, and then complete your appointment. What we've done here is we've basically simplified that process. We will handle that behind the scenes. And from an RBT's perspective, they start the appointment, and they will basically go ahead and start their data collection, in any of the data sheets that they need to. So let's go ahead and pick the first one, Wade's active plan. And in here, you'll basically see your program, and we'll go through a few of these. I can go ahead and record some data. So this is a frequency type of target, just saying thank you. We can have the coloring, let's say, I'm just gonna go pick up some of these. I can also click this show more button. And I can look at in this view as well. One of the feedbacks after our 4.10 release, what we got was, in 4.10, only one of these targets could be opened at one time. So we've made the change. Based on what you guys are saying, and you can have multiple things that are open now. So that was a change that you will see in 4.24.4. Let's say we do this, and when you are done, you can tap through it and it'll give you little indicators of green check marks for the things that you have already done. If I go to, let's say, for example, imitating wave, let's say we've only collected 2 trials and you think that you're done, you'll also notice this little red icon. And that's basically letting you know that you haven't met the minimum requirement that the BCBA has set. So I can go ahead and either complete that, or I can also, discard if I needed to. While you're in this, you can also look at all your instructions that are set. So I can go through and click on this 3 icon, the icon here, and I can look at my instructions. And any instructions that are present and they're added on the learning tree, those will also show up here. I can also look at the details, which will tell me the few last data points and what was graphed. Back. And so on and so forth. We also have this pinned icon, which I'm sure for the web users, you guys are very familiar with. These will be your behavior targets, and you can click on that, and you can also tap onto one of them, and you'll notice that they also open up at the bottom here, and you can scroll through. So let's say the hitting incident did happen. I can go record that while I'm still running a program of some sort. And I can start my timers on Tantrum, for example, and so on and so forth. We'll leave that on for now. You can also do ABC data collection, which is at the top right here. And as long as it's set up, you can document your ABC data as well. One of the other things that you'll see with this newer release is the ability to switch between data sheets. So if I go at the top here where it says Wade's active plan, I can go ahead and go to the maintenance plan as well and back and forth and collect the data. You'll notice the timer at the top is basically the same, and you'll see this timer across multiple screens everywhere while you're in the session. Okay. So let's assume you've now collected a bunch of data, and we support all the 9 data types that you have on web, all of them. When you come back, it'll basically tell you that data has been collected. And at this time, I have 2 options. I can start my session note writing. And what this does is basically all the preset sections that we have that are predefined, and obviously the data that you see in the presets it's static, it's not going to change. So to simplify the workflow, we do not show that to the RBTs. We basically have a workflow that basically shows them the things that they need to answer. So these will be your custom questions, etc. So let's just see if we can answer a few. I'll leave that on for a second. And now let's assume that you were running late and you couldn't finish the appointment. You can go ahead and slide to end now. This is just confirming what you've collected today. At this moment, you can still go back if you need to, if something is not, if you realize that you haven't done something. However, you can also collect your, you can confirm what you've collected, and then you can continue. And when you do, you're now directed to what we call the final step, basically, which is the appointment summary screen. And this screen tells you what are the missing requirements that you have in order for you to fulfill this appointment to the best of the RBT's ability. So in our specific case, you'll see at the top, there's a big button that says session note incomplete. And just for demo purposes, assuming for some reason that you did have to do this later, you can click this complete later button and move on to your next appointment, and then come back and finish it. The timers here tells you what the start and end time is, place of service, etc. So I'm going to just go back into my session notes since that's what I need to complete. And one other thing that you'll notice with the 24.4 release is we also, while you're writing your session note, we also have this data collection tab here, data collected. And that just gives you a quick glance at the data that you collected during a session. So as you're writing your note, you can refer back to it for whatever purpose you may need to. So let me just say here. And next week. Okay. So let's assume we've done that. And in this release, what we're also doing is we're going to be opening up the beta to do our session narrative using AI. So you'll see as I complete all my questions, what I'll be able to do is I'll be able to click this generate carry narrative. And I can tap, and what is happening at this moment is it goes through our generative AI. It's taking all the information that you've written, and it basically shoots back a summary of what happened during this session. At this point, you can also edit what you have, what was returned. You can give us feedback, etc. But basically what it does is it summarizes the data that I collected in a written format. Then that can be added to your session note and so on and so forth. So in 24.4, this piece is what goes on to beta. And once you are done with that and you save that, now is the last step. And what we've done with this new workflow is we've taken the completing of note at the very end. So I will now go ahead and click on sign and complete. I sign as an RBT. And when I'm done, I can basically move on to my next appointment. Yeah, so that's basically the workflow and some of the changes that you'll see in 24.4. We're continuing to enhance. There'll be additional information on how to get use of the newer app functionality as well. Okay, so
one of the upgrade that we have in the upcoming release. So back in Q4 last year, we released a new dashboard called No Payer Payment, which what it really means is we are trying to look at each of the ELA, basically all the electronic claim responses to see like which one is having denial. So to give you kind of first glimpse into denial, which, is one of the top 3 in terms of like the RCM metric, in order to kind of keep your AR down, make sure that you have good cash flow. Denial management is definitely the key there. So what we're going to do here is we're going to upgrade it. And how do we upgrade it is think about in the past, we're looking at like just the responses that's coming in. What if you don't get a responses? So how do you see it? So data-wise, we really trying to then connect all the ELA information, the 835 information with each of the claim. So that will basically allow us to really look at like, okay, what is the status of your claim? So in a sense, is to give you an overview of the health of all the claim that you have submitted. And there's 4 status that we are trying to keep track of for each of your claim. One is no response. As mentioned before, you haven't get any response from the payer. Unfortunately, we can only keep track of the electronic one. Right now, it is quite challenging to try to include anything that is manually being posted on the paper. So that connection is not quite there yet. And then the next one is no denial. And then next to is partial denial and full denial. And the difference between partial denial and full denial is if you have a claim, imagine keep in mind this is in the claim level. So you have 5 claim line. If 3 of them is denied, the other 2 is paid, then it's a partial denial. If all 5 claim line is denied, then that is a full denial. So that is going to give you a picture on like what is the general health of your claim. And the dashboard is going to be in 2 parts. One is keeping track of your initial first-time claim submission and the response that you receive back. And the second part is the most recent. And wait, why are we doing this? So here is think about the scenario. Let's say you have a scenario that you submit a claim, let's say in the 3rd week of December, it got denied, you resubmit it, you follow up with the payer, and on the 2nd week of the January, and then you get paid. In this case, in the first session, we want to keep track of like all the initial kind of claim response, which is like, the clean claim rate, the denial, and everything. So we want to keep track of it regardless if it's being recovered or not. And then the second part will then allow you to keep track of like, as of right now, what is your outstanding denial or outstanding claim that's still, waiting for payment from the payer. So with these 2 kind of different snapshot will allow you to look at things both way, historically as well as the most recent. And then some of the key metric that we're going to keep track of is I mentioned before, the first time clean claim rate, the first time denied amount, as well as another very interesting one is what is the average day for you to get your first ELA. So meaning like, okay, from the day that you submit the claim to the day that you get your first ELA. When we look across the board, we're seeing, and you will see it by payer. So we're seeing some payer like can go as fast as like 3, 4, 5 days, and some you need to wait for like 27 to like 30th day. And just for that range, that is like, additional 3 to 4 weeks of, cash flow differences. So especially if, you're seeing any kinds of like payer mix changes potentially, that will be the key for you to look at in terms of like thinking through like how is that may or may not impact your cash flow. And then like, so here you will be able to see, some of the pie chart, and then you will be able to see all the different status, the 4 status that I mentioned by the date that they most recently submit. And of course, the usual, you have all the line item with the detail. So that is going to be the claim response health summary. Next, we are going to switch gear a little bit. Let's talk about some of the operation and also like clinical area. So for the next one, we have parent training. Parent training has been really a big topic in the recent year. A lot of the payers start having a lot more requirement in terms of like how many parent training you need, and to make sure to secure the funding, they have to make sure that the parent is involved and then they are doing parent training. So because of that, we want to make sure that we have one central place for you to look at everything about parent training. So what it means is one dashboard, you will be able to look at the work hours, no matter is by the work hours on parent training, particularly by the provider or by the client, and then be able to drill down to profile each of the client to see like, okay, how is it kind of spread across the month? Is it pretty evenly distributed every single month consistently? or there's certain months that you don't have like parent training, and then also be able to look at the scheduling information to see which month it is being scheduled, which month you're seeing cancellation, and then at the end, round it up with like looking at the authorization utilization rate. So that is kind of like the area that we want to look at. With that, let me do a quick coming over. So this is a quick demo. Keep in mind, it look maybe a little bit different from what you used to see in advanced BI because it is our test site right now and with some test data. But want to give you a sense in terms of what the dashboard will look like. So in the part one, you will see your parent training information by each of the provider and also by the client. And you can then click into one of them that it will automatically filter out only the client that is belong to Kelsey here. And all the filter, like most of our dashboard and filters are interactive. So like if you say like, oh, actually, I don't want to select this person, I want to select a different person. So you can like interact with that. And let's go back to here. You will see two clients. So let's say I click into Jamie and see, and right now I'm looking at this and last quarter. So basically 2024 data. And you will see that like how many direct therapy hours does this client have within this roughly three niche month period. And then like that's 5 parent training. And the other important thing I want to show you is when does this client start? Because for example, if the client didn't start until like, last month, then of course you're not going to expect any parent training prior to that. But in this case, this client actually start early last year. So we would have expect some client training hours in January and February, which is not available here, like meaning like this doesn't exist. So there's like some more detail here in case there's multiple provider there. So now let's look at like the scheduling and cancellation. Like my first question usually will be like, well, did we try to schedule parent training with this client in January and February, or we schedule it, but they cancel it? So when you scroll down here, you will see the whole pattern in terms of like the last 6 months and then also the next 2 months, if anything is scheduled with this client on parent training. And they will be able to look at like what is the average cancellation rates during this time. And in this case, for January and February, actually nothing is being scheduled. And that's why there's no parent training. The yellow is like actually scheduled and then, it is canceled. And you can then also see like what is the cancellation reason, who is the one that canceling it. And in this case, it is the client who cancel it. So this is kind of like the cancellation area or like the scheduling area. And you know that like, okay, they already have 4 hours schedule for this month and then the next 2 months already. So it seems like it's a recurring appointment that's already being scheduled. So next, we want to look at the authorization. So overall, for the current active authorization, what is the utilization rate for that authorization? And then you can see like how many hours is being authorized for this time period, and then like how many hours being done. Note that there is a filter here that allow you to look at only the authorization that's currently active or all the historical authorization. So, depending on your use cases and what you want to look at, you'll be able to look at kind of both. And then here, we also want to kind of doing a little bit like projecting out to say that like, okay, this is how many hours that is work, and then this is how many hours that is scheduled, and this is how many hours that is on the authorization. So you would know like like a little bit like trying to estimate what would be the future authorization utilization rate given the work hours and the schedule hours. And then like on the side, we also have different filter. You can filter by the location, you can filter by specific label, no matter it's a provider label or client label. So there's like a lot of flexibility allow you to look at different way on the data. And also keep in mind for our billing data, it is going to be, include both billable and non-billable information. Okay, so let me go back to here. And then let me show you the last dashboard that is coming down the pipeline with update. So this is not a new dashboard. This is an existing dashboard on authorization. So we have a dashboard specifically looking at the authorization hourly usage. And one of the feedback that we got from the group is, hey, we want to be able to filter out secondary payer authorization, especially for some payer, they will require, let's say you have 1,000 hours that's authorized with primary and then another 1,000 hours authorized by secondary. If we include both, then you will technically double counting them. So in this case, that's why we're going to add in a new filter that's called payer priority, which would then allow you, depending on, again, your use cases, if you want to include both primary and secondary payer, or in some cases, tertiary payer authorization, or you only want to include the primary one so that you can avoid double counting it. So that will give you that flexibility. And this is also going to come in our next release. Okay, so that round up all the key changes on the dashboard with Advanced BI. And other quick notes here, since we have done so many enhancements in the last 6 months around authorization, we are going to have an upcoming webinar on April 30th at noon Eastern Time. It is going to be all about authorization, utilization, how we monitor it, what information is going to be available, what enhancement we have done, and then like some tips and tricks on how to navigate it, and also share what we have heard in terms of success story from our other organization. So here is the code to register. Okay, question.
All right. And the link to register is also available in the Q&A history. Yuki, how many pre-made dashboards are included with the ABI subscription?
Okay, the exact number, I need to think about it since we release so many every single time, but right now I think we're at like 23, but don't quote me. I may be like 1 or 2 off.
Awesome, thank you. And are there any dashboards that show clinical data to help BCBAs analyze clinical progress?
Definitely. So right now we have 2 set of dashboard. One is looking at, you can say almost a little bit productivity in terms of like how many clinical trial is being collected per session. And then like if any session is, not being ended on time, like running over like 10 hours, which with the new mobile app, it shouldn't happen anymore. And then we have another one that is looking at goal, and is, I love this question because actually in the coming soon, we're also going to have more enhancement coming down the pipeline on the clinical, which I will cover a little bit more in the coming soon.
Well, that's a great transition, Yuki. Thank you. Now we're going to talk about what's coming soon. Ricardo?
Yes, very good. Hi, everybody. So poor Maddie is sick, so I'm filling in for him, but he'll be back next time. So I'll do my best to give you a bit of a sneak peek into what we have coming up for practice. Now, as Amber mentioned earlier on, this 24.4 for practice has been filled with foundational work, so maybe not immediately visible, but really fundamental to enable what you see in this slide, but much more, laying really the foundations for a lot of functionality that will be coming out this year. Also, as you know, we do have an ongoing commitment to stability, improving stability and improving performance. That stays top of mind. Some of the work even done in this period and that will be released from June onwards is in fact in this direction. It's probably also worth mentioning though that we do have a very big focus this year also on addressing some requests that we've actually received from many of our customers who need support for multi-ID workflow and general functionality. Jeet will talk to that a bit more, and you'll start seeing additional functionality in support of multi-ID starting to get into our releases as we move forward. Now back to this slide specifically. We've been working on client payment accounts. So as you know, our current system does not really allow for accepting and holding payments that are not already linked to a completed billing entry. So the idea here has been to create instead for each client a client payment account with the goals of, again, providing more control over the cash flow. So specifically holding funds until they can be applied to a specific billing entry, It's been designed to efficiently manage different types of payment scenarios, so credit cards and cash, etc. And generally speaking, we see this as a way to improve the billing efficiency, reducing some manual work and mistakes when operating with external platforms or systems. So we're pretty excited about this coming out. Along the lines of the improved performance and user experience, you'll see some changes in the contact form, some improvements to the way filters are applied, again, for a more performing screen and all in all, an easier way to work. The other big theme that we've been spending our time on is APIs. So here the goal is to release user-oriented, public-facing APIs to improve our customers' experience and operational efficiency when it comes to moving, data between systems, pulling data, updating data, etc., etc. So you'll see quite a lot of APIs coming out over the next months. I'm just going to mention a couple. The first one, the Managed Client Payer API, that will allow to get the list of accepted payers, get the details by contact ID of the payer, and also update payer details, again, by client ID or payer ID. So a way to automate all of these operations. The other one listed here is what will allow to pull a list to view appointments in specified time ranges, and of course by list of contact IDs. As I said, we got many more lined up. It's really an ongoing work. We've been trying to be close to our customers also as we prioritize this list. So you'll hear more both during these webinars, but also as we reach out directly to validate the direction that we're taking. Having said this, Jeet, clinical and mobile.
Yeah, so as Ricardo mentioned, I think just as an organization, we do have an initiative to make sure that we address the multi-D functionality. So with this, what's upcoming, at least on the clinical and mobile side, along with practice management, just really focused on just improving the workflows, and we can leverage CR Mobile. We're going to have a streamlined process on CR Mobile that will allow us to use what we already have and then also streamline this multi-D workflows. Along with that, we're also going to be enhancing the session note PDF. So I think it looks really cool in some of the designs that I've seen. So just streamlining again, just making sure that the data is presented in a most accurate way and also easy to read. So there's a bit of work there. We're actually going to expand in terms of the session summary, the things that you'll have some control over what you want to include as part of your session summary. So for example, if you want to see current phase, or if you want to see goal instead of something else, right? There'll be a set number of things that you can select, and then that will generate what your summary looks like. So we've heard that feature request and other places, but you'll see that in the upcoming releases. And then really just getting the carry to be live, right? That's going to take some effort. Make sure that we're doing a lot of beta testing around this and making sure that it's accurate, and so on and so forth. So a lot of efforts on that piece as well. So I think this is going to be really exciting. We'll see a lot more improvements around clinical in general this year, which I'm super excited about. So yeah.
Awesome. For the advanced BI side, as you have seen, we have been working really hard on having more robust metric along the financial side, RCM. So what we're going to do is we're going to roll out a new KPI dashboard for RCM. And as you know, from the question that we have for the group earlier, we'll include all the key metric that most of the people voted for, from revenue, payment to account receivable, as well as the denial area and the claim health that we mentioned or we looked at earlier. So again, want to have one place for everyone so you can, look at it several times a week without going into like 5, 6, 7 different dashboards just to get all the information together. The next area is clinical. As mentioned before, we are gearing up to kind of revamp some of our clinical data. One of the things for the first dashboard that we have is going to focus on individual learner and looking at the clinical progress, particularly around the goal mastery. So right now, a lot of time you will need to basically open up, click on each of the branch to get like, a full summary in terms of like how is each of the goal, no matter it's long-term, short-term, or even like to each of the target, how it is doing. We want to give you a summary level to look at the whole learning tree and see, over time in terms of progress, like, how many short-term goal, long-term goals being met each month, how is kind of like the progress going over time. And then also be able to start looking at like potentially what's the effort to mastery based on the number of opportunity that is collected or number of calendar day or number of treatment days. So it's a unique number of how many days do you have session that collect data for those goal that lead to the mastery or like you have so far. So we're excited about this. We'll have more enhancement coming down the pipeline for the clinical area. And then the last one is around authorization. Since we have done so much on the authorization on the hourly base one, which is usually more for ABA services, we want to make sure that we're supporting all the other services like OT, PT, speech, and a lot of them are more visit-based. So we are going to have a new dashboard, new data set to monitor the authorization on the visit-based one and give you a sense in terms of like if there's any authorization that is expiring soon that you need to get a re-auth or extending the off if you have still some visit left on the authorization, or if you have an authorization that you're running out of visit that you need to get additional authorization on that. So I want to give everyone a sense, and then you will be able to look at like OT authorization specifically or PT because a lot of time lots of other organizations, they will need to kind of extract that list out and then communicate with the OT or PT to make sure that they get the documentation that they need for the re-auth. So that will basically put everything all in one place. And then we'll be able to calculate, even the appointment that you haven't converted yet to closely monitor how many visits has been used. So excited for this coming down the pipeline soon.
All right, I think we'll wrap up. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, team, Jeet, Yuki, Ricardo. That was amazing. Really excited but with what we have planned. Thank you, attendees, so much for your questions, your feedback, your excitement. This session was recorded and will be sent to all registrants in about 2 to 3 days. That email with the link to the recording will include a link to sign up for our CR Mobile AI beta if you're interested. A link to the ABI webinar coming up that Yuki mentioned, and then some other helpful information. And then before you leave, there will be a very short survey after the webinar. Please take a minute to answer those questions. We read them. It helps us plan for what's next and how to best handle these sessions in the future. So have a great day, and thank you, everyone.